There is a moment every clinic manager dreads, and it's not the disaster itself. By the time that's happening, you're already moving, making calls, checking the chart, doing the job. The moment I mean is the 10 seconds before you know if it's a disaster at all. That little pocket of silence where your stomach drops and your face is doing its very best community theater impression of calm, while everything underneath is absolutely not. I had one of those moments in my clinic. Someone on my team prepped a medication for a patient based on information that had been true yesterday, and it wasn't true anymore. And before it reached the patient, she caught it herself. Patient is safe. Let's get that out of the way first, because I know you're probably wondering if it ends badly for someone innocent. It does not, okay? But the mistake it still cost us real money, not the imaginary spreadsheet kind nobody actually feels. And I watched an entire vial of an expensive biologic take a one-way trip to, not the trash. We have a holding bin. Here's what actually rattled me though. It wasn't the money. It was what happened inside me in the 60 seconds after she told me. Because something I'd believed about myself for 28 years cracked wide open, and I did not see it coming. Here's the myth debunked. Here's the belief I carried for most of my career. If I hired right, trained well, built airtight systems, and cared enough, mistakes simply would not happen. Not my team, not in this clinic, not on my watch. Sounds responsible, right? Almost noble, like I'd invented some brand new tier of leadership excellence nobody else had discovered yet. Except underneath it was something uglier, because what I was really saying was that if a mistake happened, it meant I had failed at building something perfect. Nobody handed any of us that manual. The one that says 0 errors or you don't count as a real leader. Because the manual doesn't exist. But I burned a lot of years chasing a job description nobody actually wrote. You want to know what happens when you believe your job is preventing every mistake? You turn into the human equivalent of a smoke detector while a hair trigger hovering over everyone, double checking things you already checked, answering questions your team should be learning to answer themselves. Then one day you look up and wonder why nobody on your team takes ownership, conveniently forgetting you spent years training them to wait for you instead of trusting themselves. A team that hides mistakes is far more dangerous than a team that rightfully admits the mistake. Sit with that for a second, because a hidden mistake keeps growing quietly in the dark, while an admitted one can actually get fixed immediately. That day, my team member did exactly what you'd want. She caught it, she stopped, and she walked straight into my office and told me the truth. My wisdom did not show up first. My body did, and it flipped the chair before I even opened my mouth. Okay, hi, I'm Jules, your coach and mentor for new or accidental clinic manager who got handed a title, a team, and 0 training. And then had to figure out leadership in real time. No dress rehearsal, no do-over button. This one's for you if you're building a team you can actually depend on. But somewhere underneath all that, there's still this quiet belief running that if someone on your team messed up, it means you failed. Maybe nobody said it to your face. You feel it anyway. In a way, your stomach drops when a provider gives you that "how did this happen" look before you even know the facts. I've got 3 moves that changed how I carry that moment because you're going to face some version of it too. Okay? Step number 1, name what the fear is actually protecting. Number 1, name what the fear is actually protecting. When she told me what had happened, my body did this weird internal lurch, like someone yanked an emergency brake while my face tried very hard to stay in professional manager mode. You know, that split personality thing where the outside is doing calm and collected, but the inside is absolutely losing it. That was me, nodding like a bubblehead at the front desk while my brain ran its own 4-alarm drill. Nothing had reached the patient. The safety catch worked exactly like how it's supposed to. And yet my mind skipped right past that good news and went straight to the cost. Then the process. Then, how did this happen loop? Landing on the same old accusation. You should have had a better system. You should have caught this first. You should have known. Blah, blah, blah. The drunken monkey talking. Notice how fast it turned into being a problem. That was the moment I had to question the question. Because the first question my fear wanted to ask was, how did I let this happen? That sounds responsible, but it wasn't the cleanest question since it put me at the center before I had even understood the facts. The better question was, what is this moment actually revealing? That one gave me room to breathe. It let me look at the system, the handoff, the changed information, and the safety catch that actually worked without turning the whole thing into a courtroom drama, staring at me as both the defendant and the judge. Here's the question that actually humbled me in a good way, not a shame way. Was I responding to the real issue in front of me or defending my identity as the leader who catches everything before it happens? Once I named that fear out loud, even just to myself, I could finally separate the practical problem from the 28-year-old belief screaming in the background. Okay, step 2. Respond to the person before you respond to the cost. Let me repeat. Respond to the person before you respond to the cost. This was the move that mattered most and honestly, the hardest one. Because part of me wanted to go straight to the vial, the waste, the vial, walking out the door. Numbers feel so much cleaner when cleaner than feelings, don't they? The spreadsheet never looks back at you waiting to see if the truth is safe with you, but a person does. So I look at her first. I told her she did exactly the right thing by catching it and speaking up. That doesn't mean the mistake did not matter or the cost disappeared or there was no follow-up, because there was. But I wasn't about to teach my team that the safest move is to hide until you've got a perfect answer. Because a clinic where people hide mistakes isn't safer. It's just quieter. And quiet can become one of the most dangerous sounds in a medical office. Here's step 3. Build the fix with the person, not around them. Let me repeat. Build the fix with the person, not around the person. This is the one I almost skipped because my old instinct was to march off, write a new rule, and hand it down like a royal decree from the kingdom of never again. You know that kingdom, right? Population 1, exhausted manager, and 40 new checklist. What a crack up. Anyway, instead, I sat down with the employee. We asked what changed, where the handoff was vulnerable, and what needed a last second check so the next person wouldn't have to rely on old memory or good mood. That conversation mattered because the person doing the work every day often sees the risk more clearly than the person managing the whole operation from 30,000 feet. When we built the fix together, she dropped being the one who made the mistake and became part of the solution instead. And that, my friend, is how you actually grow ownership. Not by scaring people into silence, but trusting them enough to help repair what went wrong. Here's one thing I suggest you try. If you're listening tonight, bracing for the moment someone on your team gets something wrong, and it's coming, it always does. Here's something worth